Happy Sabbath! Welcome to Sabbath School.
We trust in you, Jesus. You're all that we need. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you. You give us hope and life that's forever. You make us bold and we stand together. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you. We're off on this journey, there's no looking back. With Jesus to lead us, we're on the right track. Oh, 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 oh. Wide open spaces for wide open eyes. We're looking ahead for the next big surprise. Oh, 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 oh. We trust in you, Jesus. You're all that we need. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you. You give us hope and life that's forever. You make us whole and we stand together. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you. We're off on this journey, there's no looking back. With Jesus to lead us, we're on the right track. Oh, 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 oh. Wide open spaces for wide open eyes. We're looking ahead for the next big surprise. Oh, 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 oh. We trust in you, Jesus. You're all that we need. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you. You give us hope and life that's forever. We stand together. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. Trusting in you. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. Trusting in you. Trusting in you. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you.
Happy Sabbath. The memory verse this week is, "What is impossible with man is possible with God." Luke 18:27. And the message is, by keeping our eyes on Jesus, we are saved. The disciples were in a boat together sailing along the Sea of Galilee. They had spent the day with Jesus and had seen him do some amazing things. He had taken 5 loaves and 2 fishes and used it to feed more than 5,000 people. How they wished Jesus would let the people crown him king. But at the end of the day, Jesus had sent the people home and to the disciples said, "Go ahead, go across the lake in the boat." Then Jesus had gone to a quiet place to pray. Out on the lake, dark clouds began to gather. The wind whipped angry waves against the fishing boat. The experienced fishermen strained at the oars. They pulled harder and harder, but the storm was very strong. The storm continued raging through the night. The wind pushed the waves higher and higher. By now the disciples were a considerable distance from the shore. Shortly before morning, but while it was still dark, Jesus saw them way out on the lake and decided to go to them. Suddenly the disciples saw someone coming across the water toward them. They cried out in fear. "It's a ghost!" they shouted. It frightened them to see a person coming toward them walking over the waves as if they were on solid ground. "Don't be afraid," a familiar voice called. "It is I, Jesus." Then Peter called out, "If it's really you, Lord, tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," Jesus beckoned toward his eager and sometimes reckless disciple. Looking at Jesus, Peter climbed out of the boat. and began walking along on top of the water. He took several steps. Then he turned his eyes away from Jesus and looked back at the disciples. He may have been thinking, "Hey, look at me. Can you believe it?" As he started to turn back toward Jesus, he saw the huge waves. He felt the strong winds. He became afraid, and he started to sink. Instantly, Peter's courage was gone. "Lord," he shouted, "save me." Even as Peter began to sink, the strong arm of Jesus reached out to him. Jesus grasped hold of his outstretched hand and lifted him up. "You of little faith," Jesus said, "why did you doubt?" Jesus meant that Peter needed only to keep his eyes on him. Peter needed to keep believing that Jesus had the power to save him. Jesus put his arm around Peter and they climbed into the boat. Once Jesus was in the boat, the wind calmed and the waves relaxed, and the little fishing boat sailed quietly to the other side of the lake. Today, Jesus says to us, just keep your eyes on me. I'm here to rescue you. You can't do it by yourself, but don't worry. I can save you. Just keep trusting in me.
God of heaven and earth, you are amazing. You hold me up with your hand. You give me faith, and I will put my hope in you alone, in you alone. God of heaven and earth, you are amazing. You hold me up with your hand. You give me faith, and I will put my hope in you alone, in you alone.
I will put my hope in you, Lord. You alone are everything I need. My hope is in you alone, in you alone. I will put my hope in you, Lord. You alone are everything I need. My hope is in you alone, in you alone.
Heaven and earth, you are amazing. You hold me up with your hand. You give me faith, and I will put my hope in you alone, in you alone. Heaven and earth, you are amazing. You hold me up with your hand. You give me faith, and I will put my hope in you alone, in you alone. God of heaven and earth, you are amazing. You hold me up with your hand. You give me faith, and I will put my hope in you alone, in you alone. God of heaven and earth, you are amazing. You hold me up with your hand. You give me faith, and I will put my hope in you alone, in you alone.
Good morning, everyone. Put your hands up high. Open, shut them. Open, shut them. Give a little clap. Open, shut them. Open, shut them. Fold them in your lap. 5 years ago, there was a big fire in Australia, and it was in the place where koala bears live. Now, you might know that koala bears are not bears. They're marsupials. A marsupial has a pouch. Once the baby is born, teeny tiny little baby, that baby who can't hear and can't see, but can smell and taste, climbs up into his mama's pouch. And there he stays, eating and growing for about 6 months. That's why it's called a marsupial. We have marsupials in America. One of them that you might have seen is an opossum. But koala bears are one of the marsupials that live in Australia. Now, you might have seen one at the San Diego Zoo. They're pretty cute. Otherwise, you'd have to go to Australia to see them. Maybe some of you have been. So these bears, or koalas, are marsupials, and they climb trees. They live in the eucalyptus trees. Now, there are over 700 kinds of eucalyptus trees. But koalas are a little bit of a picky eater, for they only eat about 50 different species of eucalyptus, and that's all they eat. They don't eat any other things. In fact, they get most of their water right from the leaves, although they will eat water, drink water if it's very hot. They sleep about 18 hours a day. That's a very long time. The baby's called a Joey, and he rides on mama's back or chest for another 6 months after he comes out of the pouch. So they're with mama constantly until they're about a year old. They're mostly nocturnal. Nocturnal means that they're awake at night more so than the day. Now, 5 years ago, when the fire came, some of the koala bears were not able to get away in time, and they got burned. Now, this was really bad. The koala bears, once they're burned, could get an infection and then they would die. So the helpers knew they had to do something. So they took them to a rehab center where they gave them food and medicine. They also dipped their paws in medicine that would help heal their paws. But then the koala bears would lick it off. Well, that didn't work. So they asked everybody to make mittens for the koala bears. They published a pattern. They asked for cotton mittens. So they would take the pattern and they would cut it out on the cloth and then sew them together, put the tie in so they could tie it around the wrist, and then send it back. Well, other people heard about it. People in China, people in Russia, people in England, people in America heard about a baby koala needing gloves. And so they started making gloves. More and more gloves came. In fact, so many came that they finally said, we don't need any more gloves. We have plenty. But think about that. Everybody worked together to help an animal they might not have even seen or might have seen only at the zoo, certainly an animal they'd never met. It's wonderful to help others, isn't it? I wonder if there's something you can do that would help other people, maybe people you haven't met. You know, in our church, we have quite a list of people who don't get out, don't go places, don't have family close by, or there's some kind of illness and they need help. You know what they would like? A letter from you. Perhaps you'd like to draw a picture or write a letter. If you tell me you're doing that, I'll give you the name and address of someone, or you can look on the church newsletter and mom and dad can help you find that. That's helping someone. Maybe there's something you can do in your neighborhood. Maybe someone needs help taking their trash cans out. Maybe when you go grocery shopping, you can pick up grocery for somebody else. Maybe those aren't things that you can do, but you can help mom or dad. You can set the table, take the dishes to the dishwasher and put them in the dishwasher, or empty the dishwasher. There are a lot of things that we can do to help others. Maybe it won't always be a cute, cuddly koala bear. Maybe it will be somebody you know. But today I want you to see if you can find a way to be a helper. Remember that the best helper of all is Jesus, and he will always help you. He will help you find a job where you can be a helper too. Have a great week, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining us. See you all next week. Bye.